Okay, so in the last video, we got this up and running, and you'll see we now have 5 tests passed and 4 test suites passed. Everything is going good. However, our last test, it really didn't do a whole lot. If we come down here, we said, hey, we had a movie with a movie, and you'll see here, of course, that we did, in fact, bring in this movie as some fake data. Now, in this video, what we're going to be doing is a little bit of a couple things. We're going to be talking about this fake data, some maybe strategies for dealing with fake data, and we're also going to be talking about how we want to actually debug and test this component. First thing I want to do is do const and bring in our debug, because it's nice to have some visibility. Right now we're just flying blind here, so we can do debug, and instead of expecting just that, we can just do a debug down here, and we can go ahead and check to make sure that we have our movie. Now let's go ahead and look at this code, and let's go ahead and look at movie.js. Right? We have our link, which is an anchor tag. It has its correct path, which is what we told it to use, which is just simply the ID. It has a div, well, that's coming in from this overdrive, which is an animation library. And then we have poster, which is, again, just a styled component that just has a box shadow. So all it is bringing in an image and giving this image a class with a box shadow. Now, the important stuff here is what? What's the important stuff? Well, in my mind, the important stuff is that there's a link to where we think it should be, and 2, that there's an image to being what we think it should be, concerning this image path is constructed via a poster path and movie.poster path. So let's go ahead and talk about that, right? So let's go ahead. What we want to do is head to our movie.test, and we want to assume certain things, or not assume, I should say. We want to assert a few things here. We want to expect, right? And let's go ahead and let's talk about this link here. What we can do is we can add a test ID to this movie, or we could link to it via some other things. Maybe you can have some other identifier for it. I like using the data.testID though. It's one thing that Ken C. Dodds has really said that is a new idea in testing, right? And I personally, since I started using this data.testID, data-testID, at first I was not convinced. And now after using it on a bunch of tests, I'm very convinced. So we have this data.testID, and this can just be simply movie link. Okay, now movie link we can find if we head to our movie test in here. Inside of our test, we can do a get by test ID, and we can expect get by test ID, and we can have this be movie link. Now, what's the important stuff about movie link? I guess it's important that it just exists. However, this test, since it's get by test ID, is going to fail if it doesn't exist anyways. So when you're testing things, it's always important that you're constantly asking yourself, what are the implementation details that are important? What are the things that make this thing what it is, right? Because you don't want to just test to make sure that React is doing its job. We want to test to make sure that stuff is doing what the user is expecting it to do. I can't emphasize that enough. So the important thing here is that the link is to where we'd expect it to be, okay? So we can, the way that we want to grab the link, we could just do href in here, but if we do href, it's going to give us the entire absolute path. And if we're testing on localhost, or we're testing on another server, or we're testing on anywhere else, this href might change, and that's going to break our test. So the thing we're actually going to be looking for is a .get attribute, and we're going to get the attribute of href. It's a small distinction, but what we're getting here is just the relative href, not the absolute path with the HTTPS URL and everything like that. Again, small distinction, but important one. And we're going to want it to be, and we basically, instead of just having a string in here, we could just say movie.id. Okay, so we're expecting it to be the movie ID. Now this is going to fail, as you'll see, which is really nice because it lets us know why. Expected value high to be equal to /high. Again, this is the relative path. So what we can do, here's a nice little tip. If you have Prettier set up with VS Code, you can do a string addition like this, where we do 2 quotes /+, and then when you save it, it actually converts it to be the string interpolation, or you could just type it like that. I don't know which one's faster. To me, I think the plus one is maybe a little bit faster to type. But as you can see, after saving this test now passes, which is brilliant because it means that the href is going to be linking directly to the ID of the video, which is what we want. Now you might be wondering, well, what's up with this test? I mean, is this really important to test to make sure that the link is to where we would expect it? Well, this movie component is primarily a link. So its key functionality is that it links to where you want it to link. And in this case, where we want it to link is the ID, and that's coming in even if it's coming in from fake data. As long as it's working from fake data, it's going to work with real data, as long as the data is consistent. Okay, so we have our get by test ID, movie link is the href. Cool. Another thing we can test is to make sure that the URL is the same. And that's in regards to the image, I should say. And to do this, I actually do want to bring in from our movie.js, I want to bring in the poster path. You know, we're exporting a default movie, but you know what we can also export? We can also export the poster path. So we can do down here if we want to, or we could just say export const poster path up top here. And what this does is it's going to make this poster path allows us to actually import this poster path. And we could do so in our movie test up top here where we imported movie from movie. We could also import the poster path. That way we're working with the right thing. And now that we have the same poster path from the actual code, we can use this to assemble the poster or the full poster path, which with our movie.poster path, and we could do the same thing here. So we're going to get by test ID, and we'll call this movie image. Obviously, this test ID needs to be added to the component. We'll do that in a second. And instead of get attributes href, we can just simply do src because we want the full absolute path, okay? And we want the full absolute path, and we want it to be first poster path, then what do you expect? Well, we kind of want it to be exactly how it is here, where it's just the movie.poster path. In fact, we could just copy this exactly out of here, head to our movie test, paste it in, and you could see we have our poster path and our movie.poster path. And so we're expecting the source of movie image to be poster path. Now this test is going to fail for reasons why, if you're paying attention, you probably know there's no such thing as movie image. We added the get by test ID here, but we never added that test ID to our image. Let's go ahead and have that data test ID is equal to should be a string, not an object. There we go, movie image. Watch this test pass here. There we go. So we've now tested the most important things about this component. We've tested that the image is what it expects to be, and we've tested that the link is where it's supposed to go. And therefore, this component is now fully tested. Let me remove this debug so we don't have it in there, clogging up our tests. And as you can see, we have now, in the past couple of videos, really leveled up our testing skills because we encountered a lot of problems. We encountered errors, we encountered React router things, we encountered fake mock data, and now we're encountering real usability. Now in the next video, what we're going to be doing is diving into our movie detail page. Now, the movie detail page is interesting because for several reasons here. We have this async component did mount that's fetching data for us and then returning data for us through this res.json and then setting it to a movie. How the heck are we going to do this? Well, in the next video, you're going to find out as we figure out how we can mock fetch and how we can mock the data that comes back from fetch so that we can actually get a component rendered out here. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.